A few months ago, I've started a little Polish group that is just basically based in Suffolk and Norfolk for the people who live there and work there, to support them and to support each other, but also to educate them and help them to understand how important it is to be involved politically of what's going on at this point, at this moment. I think for quite a long time, a Polish community in a small towns like Great Yarmouth or Lowestoft, where I'm from, were taking what's going on for granted, and they were not really wanted to get involved in much. I've spoken with many of them, and loads of them didn't even know they could vote in general elections. They didn't understand what the parties were about. So the political parties, what the Labour is sort of like standing for, etc. So what we did, we've done the group, and one of the things that came out of it, that I became involved in helping and supporting many of Polish people that were subjected to quite a lot of discrimination within Suffolk and Norfolk after the vote, after referendum. One of the worst of cases that actually the gentleman from Der Spiegel actually written about was the case of one of my really good friends, the woman who lived in Great Yarmouth and her husband as well, and they worked for 12 years in England. They've got 5 kids. They all live here, they're all students, and they're not actually able to walk on the streets and talk Polish to their children because they were being told on many occasions, stop speaking Polish, you're in England, F off basically, and basically ganging up on them. So that was quite emotional for them. That made them using their own language on the streets of those little towns. They found it difficult, the girls found it difficult to understand why suddenly situation changed. One of them is 11 years old. She doesn't understand politics. She's been born in this country. And what happens is that she said to me, I live here. I can't go back to Poland like they're telling me to because I don't know Poland. This is where my home is. And she said that obviously with her perfect, beautiful English that she sort of like knows, and that's all she knows. And she just basically couldn't understand what's going on. How do you explain it to a child that was born here, that she's being told, get out of this country, we don't need you here? Then the neighbors started to attack them. There were some cameras installed on the neighbor's house pointing out at the house. The people were gathering outside their house and screaming and shouting that the Brexit is going to get you out. What's funny in that one is that the same neighbor who before referendum was their best friend, who'd gladly go and borrow, like, I don't know, the glass of sugar or whatever, suddenly turned. And there was no other explanation but this. Now, the same story I heard from one of the girls I actually spoke on social media about this. And she told me a similar story. She said she lived in a little town up north, and she asked me that I wouldn't say the name because the situation is quite known in there. But she lived there for 20 years, and then what happened, her best friends that were English people and also the other nationalities like I think Indian people who were British, also suddenly sort of like turned against them and started the hate campaign where the police was involved, and then obviously social services were involved, where the little boy was bullied at the playground to the point where he was stripped naked, and there were obscene words written on his body in basically English, you dirty Poland, etc., etc. So stories like that started coming to me. One of the things I've realized is that we need to talk about this, and many Polish people is afraid to do so. Loads of Polish people think it's not their place to criticize anything that's going on in this country, and I think this is what actually we need to get them involved a little bit more. I think the organization that helped me a lot, and they actually supported me quite a lot in this, what I'm doing at the moment, is the 3 Million, and they gave me lots of motivation and also sometimes like a platform to actually speak out about this. Saying that, it's not all negative. I heard a lot of stories from people. I spoke with many of Polish people who said actually they got a lot of support following the vote in 2016, in June 2016. They actually received lots of support from employers, from their neighbors, from their friends. That was myself. I was actually being reassured by my employer saying, whatever happens, we're going to be 100% behind you. Many people in London, Manchester, Birmingham came back to me and said they were very lucky having all that support around them, so they're not really worried about what's going on, except they quite upset, and that's the word I had a lot, upset about the government and the attitude towards the European people in here. It was the case that we felt we are bargain chips and we were not being treated as a human beings. That was the first thing I heard. And the second thing I heard, what's going to happen to us, because we hear all the time this negativity about European people in general, about the fact that we are burdened to NHS, which we know, as obviously it's been pointed out before. Lots of Europeans actually work. Majority of them work. Those who don't, they don't work probably just for a short amount of time when they're off sick or when they're pregnant or have a baby or when they're retired. But majority of Europeans come into this country to study or to work. And in my opinion, is that to say, to do that campaign that was quite actually hurtful and painful to watch, using people that coming over here and settling here and contribute economically, emotionally as well in this country, using them just as a political tool, it is something that I'm never going to forgive for this government to let it happen. Never going to. One thing I can say is that there's another issue I just wanted to mention as well, which I think we need, is the hate campaign and hate that actually popping out of the news, of the titles of certain newspapers and sometimes television, and twisting the facts. And I am very disappointed in certain people that I even know and spoke with, that they do not look at the facts, but that they believe, like just basically a pile of garbage there, that someone just picked the facts that are not relevant to each other even, and just thinking, there you go, we're going to dish it out, you're going to eat it up, and the next thing you're going to do, you're going to go and vote the way we want you to vote. This is brainwashing. And seeing Daily Mail, for example, Daily Mail exactly is one of the biggest hate campaigners against my people, and I will again never forgive them and the government for allowing that hate campaign to actually carry on. If I had resources, I would just basically took them through the courts forth and back, because what they're doing is to spreading lies about European people, especially about Eastern European people, when the fact they do not have that much voice within the political world is because many of them coming over here, they just basically concentrating on work, on their own lives. They believe in the government. That's what they told you they're going to do. Not many of them breaking the law. They just basically want to work in quiet life, and that's been taken away from them in a way that I think it's a little bit not fair. So another thing I wanted to touch on, this is the confusion that we had following the vote, referendum. So there was June 2016. No one said actually anything that's going to happen. There was a great big silence. That's how we felt. That's where I was discussing that with my people. There was huge silence. There was nothing actually said. There was great confusion, and then fake news started popping out. And there was us creating it because the panic sets in. It wasn't that we weren't worried about right now, but what the future will come. So, for example, Polish portals were full of articles. They're going to buy, Home Office is going to buy a lot of bans to do a mass deportations because they don't want us here. And the people believed. And that's why lots of people returned to Poland. And I know they did it once because they said, we just want peace and quiet. We don't want to be here because obviously all that is going on. We don't want to be where we don't want it. But secondly, we're not sure whether this is the truth. We don't know what to believe. Even today, I still pick up the phone. And how many months actually just passed since that vote, and the people calling me and saying, do you know what's going on with that settled person status? Because I don't understand it. It was a few months ago, it was saying this, now it says that. It's very confusing. I don't know what's going to happen to me. I've got a mortgage, I've got kids. I've got my parents in Poland that I need to get them over at some point. So what's going to happen with us? And it's still a great big unknown. And as much as I supported this government in the past, right at the moment, I could not wait to see them gone and never come back. And that is because of this uncertainty and the fact that people are just basically being kept in the dark for so long. I think that was way too long. The other thing, I just feel the Brexit itself, it is very damaging for Great Britain. I think this is that would be the worst decision they would do if they carry on with that. I think personally, the economy, also the fact that European people put in so much economically, as I said before, and emotionally, they enrich this country. And this is what Great Britain is a part of Europe, and it's been for so long. And now they're going to detach themselves, and I just wonder what's going to be left. And when there is no European people to blame, who they're going to blame for whatever happens, whatever this government cannot give. So I think that's my bit set. Sorry, it was a bit chaotic, but I've never done speeches before.